3 days. That is how long the human body can survive without water. Not weeks, not months. 3 days. After 24 hours without water, your thinking slows. After 48, your organs begin to struggle. After 72, your body starts shutting down processes it considers non-essential, and then the essential ones follow. Now imagine you are standing in the middle of a vast dry landscape. No river in sight, no rain for weeks, no bottle, no map, just heat, distance, and a body that is already starting to run out of time. This was not a rare situation for ancient humans. It was one of the most common crises they faced, and the way they solved it reveals just how extraordinary the human mind actually is. The first thing your ancient ancestor did was not panic, or at least the ones who survived didn't. Because panic burns energy, panic increases heart rate, panic makes you sweat, and sweat, when you are already dehydrated, is a resource you cannot afford to lose. The first move was to read the landscape, and ancient humans were extraordinarily good at this. Skills that feel lost to most people today were, 100,000 years ago, the difference between finding water and dying 30 miles from it. The first sign they looked for was animals, specifically birds. Many bird species need water daily. Pigeons and doves, in particular, fly toward water sources in the early morning and late afternoon in almost straight lines. Watch which direction they fly at dawn. Follow them. If you couldn't find birds, you looked for bees. Bees are almost never more than a few miles from water. Watch a bee long enough, and it will eventually fly toward it. Insects hovering in columns above a single point in dry terrain often indicate moisture below the surface. Even flies. Flies require water to breed. A cluster of flies in a dry landscape is not random. These were not lucky guesses. They were accumulated observations passed down through generations of people whose survival depended on getting them right. But what if the surface was completely dry? What if the animals weren't cooperating and the landscape offered nothing obvious? This is where ancient humans did something that still surprises researchers today. They dug. Not randomly, strategically. Dry riverbeds, even ones that haven't seen water in months, often contain moisture just below the surface. Water follows gravity. It sinks. But it doesn't always sink forever. Clay and rock layers trap it beneath the sand. Ancient humans learned to read which riverbeds held subsurface water based on the color of the soil, the type of vegetation growing nearby, and the way the ground felt underfoot. They would dig in the outer bend of a dry riverbed curve, where water is most likely to have pooled on its last flow. Sometimes they found mud. Sometimes they found damp soil. Sometimes they found actual water just a few feet down. In the Kalahari Desert, the Sand People, one of the oldest surviving hunter-gatherer cultures on Earth, developed a technique of sipping this subsurface moisture through hollow reeds used as straws, pulling water that no eye could see from ground that appeared completely dry. Now here is where it gets genuinely surprising. Because ancient humans didn't just find water, they created it. In coastal or high humidity regions, they used animal skins or large leaves left out overnight to collect dew. Dew forms on surfaces that cool faster than the surrounding air. Smooth, slightly concave surfaces collect the most. An animal skin, spread out and weighted at the edges, could collect enough moisture overnight to make a meaningful difference. They also used transpiration. Tying a clear animal bladder or skin around leafy branches in the morning before the sun got high allowed the water that plants naturally release through their leaves to collect inside. Not enough to satisfy thirst on its own, but enough to delay the worst consequences, to buy another day. And in a survival situation, another day is everything. Some of the most desperate solutions were also the most creative. In extremely arid environments where none of the above was possible, ancient humans extracted moisture from the bodies of animals they hunted. The stomach contents of prey animals often contained partially digested plant matter, still holding water. The blood of freshly killed animals, while not ideal, provided hydration in emergencies. Even the eyes and soft organs of prey held moisture. This was not desperation in the modern sense. It was systematic, unsentimental problem solving. A body that needs water will find water in whatever form is available, and ancient humans who had no room for squeamishness found it. There is one more strategy that researchers find remarkable. Ancient humans moved at the right times. In extremely hot environments, walking during the day is catastrophically inefficient. You lose water faster than you can replace it. Your core temperature rises. Your energy depletes. Ancient humans learned to be still during the hottest hours, to shelter in shade in caves in the shadow of rock formations. They moved at dawn. They moved in the late afternoon. They moved at night when the temperature dropped and the body's water requirements fell. This is not common sense. This is learned, transmitted, accumulated knowledge, the kind that could only exist in a species capable of teaching. A species where one generation's hard discoveries became the next generation's starting point. Every technique for finding water in a dry landscape was once learned by someone the hard way, and then passed on so that no one else had to learn it that way again. The San people of southern Africa have a concept that has no direct translation in most modern languages. It describes a kind of knowledge that exists in the landscape itself, not in books, not in memory, in the land, in the way a certain type of tree grows only where its roots can reach groundwater, in the way certain grasses indicate seasonal flooding, even in the dry season, in the way the morning air smells different near a hidden spring. This knowledge was not written down. It was observed, practiced, shared, refined over thousands of years by people who had no margin for error. Because the margin for error, without water in a dry landscape, is exactly 3 days. The next time you twist a tap and watch clean water appear from nowhere, consider what that represents. Not just technology. The end of a problem that consumed enormous amounts of human intelligence, creativity, and observation for hundreds of thousands of years. A problem that killed countless people who were just as smart as you, who just didn't have the tap. The techniques they developed, reading bird flight patterns, digging in dry riverbeds, harvesting dew from animal skins, moving at dawn and dusk to conserve moisture, were not primitive. They were sophisticated, built by minds every bit as capable as any alive today, working on the hardest deadline that exists. Basically, ancient humans didn't just survive without water. They built an entire science around finding it, one observation at a time.